Professor used the evolution theory from the viewpoint of Christianity, the thorough analysis of the descent or origin of man. Lecture 7, Chapter 4, Comparison of the mental powers of man and the lower animals continued. Of all the differences between man and the lower animals, the moral sense or conscience is by far the most important. It does not mean that any social animals, if its intellectual faculties were to become as active and as highly developed as in man, would acquire exactly the same moral sense, as if various animals have some sense of beauty, so they might have a sense of right and wrong. Animals of many kinds are social and also render more important service to one another. In Abyssinia, Bram encountered a great troop of baboons who were crossing a valley. Some had already ascended the opposite mountain, and some were still in the valley. The latter were attacked by the dogs, but old males immediately hurried down from the rocks, and with mouths widely opened, roared so fearfully that the dogs quickly drew back. They were again encouraged to the attack, but by this time all the baboons had reascended the heights, excepting a young one, about 6 months old, who, loudly calling for aid, climbed on a block of rock and was surrounded. Now one of the largest males, a true hero, came down again from the mountain, slowly went to the young one, coaxed him, and triumphantly led him away. An eagle seized a young Chocopithecus, which by clinging to a branch was not at once carried off. It cried loudly for assistance, upon which the other member of the troop, with much uproar, rushed to the rescue, surrounded the eagle, and pulled out so many feathers that he no longer thought of his prey, only how to escape. This eagle assuredly would never attack a single monkey of a troop. It is certain that associated animals have a feeling of love for each other, which is not felt by non-social adult animals. Many animals certainly sympathize with each other's distress or danger. Besides love and sympathy, animals exhibit other qualities connected with the social instincts, which in us would be called moral. All animals living in a body which defend themselves or attack their enemy in concert must indeed be in some degree faithful to one another. With respect to the impulse which leads certain animals to associate together and to aid one another in many ways, we may infer that in most cases they are impelled by the same sense of satisfaction or pleasure which they experience in performing other instinctive actions, or by the same sense of dissatisfaction as when other instinctive actions are checked. The feeling of pleasure from society is probably an extension of the parental or filial affections, since the social instinct seem to be developed by the young remaining for a long time with their parents, and this extension may be attributed in part to habit, but chiefly to natural selection. Everyone admits that man is a social being, but our consciousness does not tell us whether they are instinctive, having originated long ago in the same manner as with the lower animals, or whether they have been acquired by each of us during our early years. As man is a social animal, it is almost certain that he would inherit a tendency to be faithful to his comrades and obedient to the leader of his tribe, for these qualities are common to most social animals. A young and timid mother, urged by the maternal instinct, will, without a moment's hesitation, run the greatest danger for her own infant. Many a civilized man disregards the instinct of self-preservation and plunges at once into a torrent to save a drowning man, though a stranger. Since these actions performed impulsively do not come under the dominion of the moral sense, they cannot be called moral. Their actions can hardly be distinguished from an instinct. Under circumstances of extreme peril, as during a fire, when a man endeavors to save a fellow creature without a moment's hesitation, he can hardly feel pleasure, and still less has he time to reflect on the dissatisfaction which he might subsequently experience if he did not make the attempt. This impulsive power lied in him is widely different from a search after pleasure or happiness. It is probable that this is a deeply planted social instinct. The higher moral rules are founded on the instincts and matured by experience and cultivation. This virtue, one of the noblest with which man is endowed, seems to arise instantly from our sympathies becoming more tender and more widely diffused until they are extended to all sentient beings. The social instincts of man and the lower animals were acquired for the good of the community. There can be no doubt that the difference between the mind of the lowest man and that of the highest animal is immense. An anthropomorphous ape could not follow out a train of metaphysical reasoning, or solve a mathematical problem, or reflect on God, or admire a grand natural scene. Though they could make other apes understand by cries some of their perceptions and simpler wants, the notion of expressing definite ideas by definite sounds had never crossed their minds. They were ready to aid their fellow apes of the same troop in many ways, to risk their lives for them, and to take charge of their orphans. But man's disinterested love for all living creatures is quite beyond their comprehension. The difference in mind between man and the higher animals, great as it is, certainly is one of degree and not of kind. The sense and intuition, the various emotions and faculties such as love, memory, attention, curiosity, imitation, reason, etc., of which man boasts, may be found in the lower animals, and they are also capable of some inherited improvement. It could not be proved that certain high mental powers, such as the formation of general concepts, self-consciousness, etc., were absolutely peculiar to man, but these appear to be the result of the continued use of a perfect language. At what age does the newborn infant possess the power of abstraction or become self-conscious and reflect on its own existence? We cannot answer. Similarly, we cannot answer in regard to the ascending organic scale, but the half-art, half-instinct of language still bears the stamp of its gradual evolution. As ye would that man should do to you, do ye to them likewise. This lies at the foundation of morality. The moral sense perhaps affords the best and highest distinction between man and the lower animals. The social instinct, which is the prime principle of man's moral constitution, naturally leads us to the above golden rule with the aid of active intellectual power and the effects of habit. In the next chapter, some few remarks on the probable steps and means by which the several mental and moral faculties of man have been gradually evolved will be noticed. For we daily see these faculties developing in every infant, and we may trace a perfect gradation from the mind of an utter idiot, lower than that of an animal low in the scale, to the mind of a Newton. Such evolution is at least possible and ought not to be denied. The above is all Chapter 4 says. Shalom.